everyone, I am Caroline Fleur.
And I'm Alex.
And this is the Food Allergy Nation. But today we're going to have a different type of video, just a fun fact video all about apples. But why am I doing this? Last year, I did a video with Alex because it was pouring rain all day long and I convinced him to do a video with me. And that video, which was a Flex Moves bag review, has over 5,500 views. So if you haven't seen it, after this video, go watch it. But guess what? It's a snow day. It is sleeting outside. Everything's white. Everything's shut down. And guess what I've done? I have convinced him to do another video with me. So my son loves apples. He eats at least 2 apples a day, plus an applesauce, plus apple chips. He never gets tired of them, and I've learned everyone seems to love apples. So I started looking up some interesting things and found tons of fun facts about them, which we are going to share as quickly as possible in today's video. And I'm going to include a list of all of the sources I used in this video that I found on the internet if you're curious about where they came from. And by the way, we are going to be reading from a piece of paper because we're pretty smart, but we are not going to memorize all these facts about apples. So here's our papers we're going to be reading. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, let's do this. There are many different kinds of apples, so if you don't like one kind of apple, you'll probably like another. They can be red, yellow, or green, which can be Fuji, Gala, Honeycrisp, Granny Smith, Pink Ladies, and many more. And we've all heard the saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away.
But why?
I read in the Washington Post that the original phrase was from the 1800s in England, which was, eat an apple on going to bed and you'll keep a doctor from earning his bread. What? So the phrase changed a little bit over time and ended up with a phrase that stuck around longer because it was much catchier to say. But the bottom line is, experts still believe apples have a lot of health benefits. But are they rich in vitamins?
Not really. They do have some vitamins, but they are mostly rich in antioxidants and fiber, which reduce chronic inflammation and can improve heart health and lower your risk for cancer and diabetes. Many say if you want all the health benefits, leave the skin on if you can.
I read that it takes 5 years before an apple tree first produces any fruit. And then every other year it produces a lot, then a little, then a lot, then a little. And it doesn't matter what the weather is to cause that to happen.
They sound a bit temperamental to me.
I agree. But what is the deal with Honeycrisp apples? They're more expensive, but people love them. And then there's other people who say to stay away from them. But why?
We looked it up. Several articles say they're getting a bad rap for being genetically modified. Certain apples can be genetically modified to prevent browning. No one likes to cut into an apple, and you see that brown spot, you have to cut off. But from what I read, those aren't Honeycrisp apples. According to a few online sources, GMO modified apples are called Arctic apples. The varieties include Arctic Granny and Arctic Fuji. So if you don't like the idea of genetically modified foods, look for products that have a non-GMO written on the packaging. Easy. Back to Honeycrisp apples, they're bigger, tastier, and crispier than other apples. So how are they made? Honeycrisp apples are grown through cross-pollination, not genetic modification. And cross-pollination is considered by many as an all-natural process.
So I didn't know what cross-pollination was, and I looked that up. It turns out Honeycrisp apples do not self-pollinate. That means other types of trees need to be in close proximity to the Honeycrisp apple trees for cross-pollination to occur. And some sources say another tree needs to be within 50 feet, and some say it needs to be within 6 to 12 feet. I don't know which it is, but apparently they need other trees in order to produce Honeycrisp apples.
So who was Johnny Appleseed? Was he a real person?
Yes, he was. He was a character in a fiction book in the 1800s, but that character was based on a real person named John Chapman. John Chapman was an American pioneer who trekked upward, planting apple seeds along his journey, which introduced apple trees to several states back in the 1700s. Pennsylvania, Ohio, Illinois, and what we now know as West Virginia, and even up in Ontario. I think everyone has heard New York called the Big Apple.
But why is it called that?
People think it's because New York is one of the top apple growers in the nation, and it is. It's the second largest producer behind which state?
Washington.
That's correct. Washington is the biggest producer. New York is the second biggest producer, but that is not where it got the name the Big Apple. In 1920, a sports reporter named John Fitzgerald used the phrase. He was reporting on horse racing, and he had heard stable hands from New Orleans use the term when they referred to New York because it was such a big venue.
Oddly enough, New York had another name for a short time. Back in 1673, the Dutch captured New York for a while and named it the New Orange. Doesn't have quite the same ring to it, does it?
No, it does not.
What about the technology company Apple? We all know it. Computers, iPads, iPhones, MacBooks, Apple Watches. It's hard to imagine life without Apple. But where did the name come from? Steve Jobs suggested it after visiting an apple orchard. I read that they wanted a name that was simple and did not scare the average customer. And it was at the beginning of the phone book too.
That's true. Back in my day, we used to have to use a phone book to look up phone numbers, and they were about this thick, which is such a waste of paper, and they had to be updated every year. It's crazy to think about that now.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And have you heard of Gwyneth Paltrow's daughter, Apple? According to E! Online, her husband, Chris Martin, suggested it because it sounded sweet. She agreed apples are sweet and wholesome and biblical, so she agreed with the name too. But has the apple always been wholesome and sweet? Well, let's think about Adam and Eve for a second. Did the apple cause Adam and Eve to give in to temptation, eating from the tree of knowledge, and as a result be exiled from Eden?
Maybe not.
I read that the Bible says it is the forbidden fruit, and people just assumed it was an apple, but that it never clearly said that.
Never knew that. Evidently, the words apple and evil are the same in Hebrew. It is the word malice. So that probably adds to the confusion as well. Some people are allergic to apples. I'm not, but people can be allergic to anything.
That is true. There's also a condition called oral allergy syndrome where people react to raw fruits and vegetables, including apples. I read people with OAS tend to have an allergy to birch tree pollen as well. The most common symptoms are itching and swelling of the mouth, face, eyes, or tongue, and usually happens right after eating raw fruit. In rare cases, it can be up to an hour, and if this happens, see an allergist.
Have you ever heard of bobbing for apples as a Halloween activity?
Yes, and according to allrecipes.com, and you know how much I love recipes, the tradition of bobbing for apples started out as a courting ritual. Evidently, each apple represented a young man, and if the girl could bite the apple representing him on the first try, then they were soulmates.
But if it was on the second try, then it wasn't meant to be.
Well, that's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah.
I also read that the apples were chosen for this game because apples are 25% air, so they are one of the only fruits that float. So what about you? Do you know any fun facts about apples that we overlooked? Put it in the comment section below so we can learn about it as well. And thanks for watching our All About Apples fun fact video. I enjoyed doing it. What did you think?
I enjoyed doing it too.
Okay, cool. We had fun. I hope you did too. I'm Caroline Fleur.
And I'm Alex.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you
Bye.
next video.